Welcome to the Good Business Dufferin podcast, hosted by the Dufferin Board of Trade through our social enterprise, the Dufferin Biz Hub. Our podcast is based on our belief that small businesses have the power to drive positive change in our community. Our conversations with local experts will help your business thrive, and our talks with community leaders will inspire you to make a difference in Dufferin County. Whether you're looking to grow your business, strengthen our community, or hopefully both, we've got you covered. Hello and welcome back. I'm Diana Morris, and today we're joined by a talented creative force, Tony Fenech. Tony is an artist, videographer, photographer, and so much more. His work captures stories in powerful ways, whether through visuals, film, or photography. In this episode, we'll explore Tony's journey in the creative industry, learn about his inspirations, and gain valuable advice for small business owners looking to use video and photography to elevate their brand and reach a wider audience. Let's dive in. Tony, thank you so much for joining us today. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you for the gracious introduction. I could do more of that.
Tony, can you tell us a little bit about your background, how you got started in the world of art and photography and videography and all the other things you do?
It's in me as a creative. I discovered it sort of young. I guess don't want to talk too much. I'm really saying that ahead of time before we do this today. I want to make sure I'm to the point. My mom recognized early, speaking to an art teacher, she's like, your son's circles in kindergarten are that thereof kids that are in grade 4 or 5. So that's a little bit of something right off the hop. So love comics, started drawing a lot, realized I could sell professional portraits to people at around 16 years old. Okay. Then framing pictures, I'm going to be all over the place. Like I can't watch a movie. My wife is like, because I study everything. I'm like, ooh. Establishing shot over the shoulder, extreme close-up. She's like, shut up, watch the movie. Excuse my language, right? Watch the movie. So I'm analytical that way, and I'm always composing pictures. So the illustration then in turn became, I did very well in videography in high school. I got the highest marks in year 1 and year 2. And a little note that I'd like to kind of cap this little question off is that I took year 3 and they're like, I took year 1 again, the third time over because I loved it so much. And they're like, you do realize you're not going to get a credit for this. I said, no problem. I want to be in the editing room. I want to be using these old jog shuttles. And that led into being a professional videographer at 18, filming weddings, making $85 an hour filming weddings back then.
Amazing.
But with over the shoulder, like really cumbersome
Big
equipment.
Cameras.
Yeah. So I've just always loved composing and been a big fan of what's inside that frame and thinking outside of that frame too, if I may.
I think that's fantastic. I love how we as, lay people or non-professionals, as we see the finished product, but you're obviously seeing every step in how they got there, the way your brain is processing the film and the
It's weird. If you're a creative, there's a super analytical part to it, which people may understand. They may think you're very aloof. And I actually lay up at night thinking about every word before I say it, how I want to present myself, how I want to represent my clients. And if you want to make a living of it, you have to become a little bit more commercial. And then if people are willing to invest in you, it's very sensitive and you have to take it very seriously. And but there's still an opportunity there to be a creative in a space that can have professionalism.
I love that. It's about that balance, right?
Correct.
So many things.
Correct.
Doing what you love, loving what you do, but keeping it elevated.
100%. And that's why I'm here today.
You're awesome at that.
Oh,
yeah,
yay.
That's great.
Thank
So what inspires you to do your creative work?
I'm inspired right now. The cameras, the lights, I love it all. If I didn't want to raise my family by a river in Grand Valley, I would be on sets. Like I really love the videography. I've done a few sets. What inspires me, pardon me?
Just what inspires you? How do you decide what stories you're gonna tell and what resonates with you?
Well, at this point in my life, I'm inspired by the client's needs. I've got a few lucrative clients. I'm very blessed that way. But I do have sort of this umbrella, this template, this lens that I see things through. I happen to just be of like the board culture kind of environment. And as kids, we were all snowboarders, skateboarders, surfers. We were all very creative. We were all making videos and ads and pretending to be these sort of ad execs as it was without seeing anything. It just was par for the culture. And then schematically, it ended up being that the people that were the decision makers started to turn towards us and say, oh, this is very lucrative. This is well marketed. Instead of like shunning these kids and saying that they're criminals or like outcasts, they started marketing to us. And then I watched it kind of schematically. I have friends who've won Oscars. I have friends who've won Junos. I have friends, and and it's all, some of it's local, mostly local, yay. And just that environment, that culture of being creative, and it blends like lifestyle and arts and productivity, and it's in nature. I that's where I'm from. That's the cloth I'm cut from, and that's we tend to be creatives, and all my friends or the other people I grew up with, and or I gravitate to those types of people.
Yeah. That makes sense. And you talk about getting inspiration from your clients. So clients like small business owners, what should they do if they haven't experienced photography, videography? How do they get started, those small businesses?
Right. I think I thought about this question beforehand, if it was going to come up. And research and development is everything. Know what it is. Sometimes I work with new clients where I'm like, oh, I don't know. I feel for them, and I try to consult, and I try to gear them in a certain direction I feel is more fitting after only doing a bunch of research. So know your industry, know your client base, know your competition, understand that a digital space is, I don't want to say king, but the #1 search engine in the world is Google. The #2 search engine in the world is YouTube, owned by Google. And if you want to have a reach, and you got to play in a digital space, you have to learn it, you have to understand it. It's very hard to just be well received by word of mouth. You have to work with the tools that are going to get you some engagement, and that would be, I believe like a picture is so lucrative, but then a video, you can attach emotion, you can get a message across, you can move a little bit quicker because we're hard sold too. We think a little bit faster. Like when we were taking film classes back in the day, they would tell you every shot should be 3 to 5 seconds. Establishing shot 5 seconds, and then shots that go throughout about 3 seconds. Well, as you can see by the way we're sort of marketed to, if it's a 30-second, 15-second, 30-second reel, there's way more than 30 shots in there. We are able now to absorb information quicker. We want it quicker, and you should deliver it quicker. It depends on the niche of what you're selling, but understanding your medium, understanding how you're conveying your message, understand why you're conveying your message, and do a bit of research before. I mean, I'm very enthused for people that want to start. It's super exciting, but I also think they have to understand that there's only so much money available, and there's only so much effort, so much time available. So while you can do so much on your own, maybe consult with somebody that has had a deep portfolio, and research.
Yeah.
Research is the word I want to convey.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't do everything, especially when you're starting out, right? You can't be everything to everyone as a business.
And there's pressure. You feel like everyone's on you, telling you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do this.
Yeah.
But yeah,
you can't do it all.
No.
So you're saying, find your target market and what platforms they're into, and start your concentration in those markets.
Right. So if you champion your own message, so be it. I mean, people want authentic, people want real. I get that. But then there's also only so much time lived by way of their time to engage with you. And are you hitting what you're looking to hit? So that's where, if you aren't versed, if you haven't done, like, I know it's a bit about me today. I know I'm trying to be humble, but I mean, I worked in aggregate, I've worked in fitness malls, I've worked in auto malls, I've worked with the municipalities, I've worked with, so I've diversified an understanding of different industries, but collectively I form a little bit of a template that I understand is a good timeline, is a good output, is a comprehensive understanding of what it is they've asked me to do. And that's just by experience. So go out and get your hands dirty for sure. And you'll learn too with experience. But the challenge being is, do you have enough leeway with that experience that you're not going to exhaust all your resources? Right.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you don't need to be humble. You've had an amazing career.
Thank you
I only know a small portion of it, but your work for the municipalities has helped small businesses grow, and the talent that you have is fantastic, Tony. You've seen a lot of businesses and helped them start and help them grow. Have you seen businesses who have been DIYing it or trying to do something? Have you seen any mistakes? Is there any tips on what not to do for businesses?
Yeah. I guess I think I want to retort back to that level of post-production sort of professionalism. There's only so far you can go with what it is you're trying to convey. The people, before you buy a car in that world, people do 17 hours of online research of what's inside an hour of them. So what's going to set you apart from your competitors? And fortunately, people see the value of the production, and they'll know if there's tangibles there, if there's money there, if there's something to be, if there's something to look into a little bit deeper. And you only have so much, again, a small window. It's a .com world. to retain people's attention and try to bring them to your neck of the woods. So get to know your product by way of how you're representing it as well. Your image, your branding is clutch, and if you think you're missing the mark, small investments with someone like myself, and or what you do with that also after the fact. I don't know what question's coming, what, when, but I've seen a lot of good productions that didn't get any traction. They didn't know what to do with it after they invested in a professional. So that's par for the course too, is what you do with that product once you've attained it as well. So it could just sit in limbo. Like I've done stuff for like really big companies. I'm like really excited to see all the engagement. And once I hand it over, I'm like, whoa, they didn't move the needle. They didn't, it just sort of fell to the wayside. So when you do make that investment, understand how to use it too.
So can you tell me, how do we move the needle? How do you use that investment to your best?
Right. So there's things that you should always champion because they all coincide, as we know. Like what I feel people really miss is their Google My Business page.
Okay.
It's free. You can put videos. Then you get your pin. Then you marry that with your website, because people often, as I said, are exhausted for time. And if they are going to dole into something, they'll Google you even before they do any more.
Yeah.
So it's almost like the precursor. So that's a whole website unto itself, which is free.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right. And then they might dip into your website. They might see you on your socials. But I would say champion as many platforms as you can. Keep consistency with it, which is hard because people are exhausted. But I mean, get it, like Instagram's very powerful right now, as we know it's owned by Facebook. But the point being that all this traction engages and forms a map on Google, which keeps you prevalent inside searches.
Yeah.
So when you put it out there, like, so what I'm trying to say to everybody, anyone who might be listening, don't just post something on your Facebook. That same post, and keep consistency of brand, if you feel interested, could live as a story on Instagram, could live on Instagram, could live on Pinterest, could live on LinkedIn, could live on Google. So when you keep that unified spread across the board, which quite often a lot of this is organic, you create more of an algorithm, and you'll be seen more often. So there's ways, besides meta tagging, and there's a lot of tangibles and things that you can do. And the king of all kings, honestly, it's a pay-to-play program. If you can boost ads and know your region and know your market, that's going to be a huge return. And then lastly is follow through. If you do get these leads, let's see them through. Let's do our very best to champion every single one.
And that's a great point. And I think a lot of people often forget about that follow through. It's the flash, it's the color, we've got this. And you're amazing at following through. We talked about, Facebook referrals recently, and how that you don't just say hi, you follow through. And I think that's a component that everyone needs to follow, not necessarily Facebook, but just any kind of lead you get, how to make the most of that.
Agreed. I think it's a world full of opportunities, but you have to capitalize. You have to, and it's hard to be so profound and out there, but I mean, it's a business world. The climate is competitive, and you have to see things through. You have to make the most of every opportunity. Like I feel like I'm doing today, which is exciting. This is such a great opportunity.
Awesome. Well, we're glad you're here and making the most of it. And how do small businesses, what should they do if they're really, budget is a concern right now. We know a lot of small businesses are maybe not yet in a position to hire someone to do support. So do you have any tips for them if they're going to DIY it to start?
Activity, frequency, putting stuff out there. I always say, regardless if I'm working for myself or someone else, putting something out there in the universe is always better than not putting. As long as you have good intentions. We overanalyze everything. We micromanage ourselves. We get really critical. I mean, I can feel it on people when I see them. Like they're already hard on themselves and don't want to pull the trigger. And I always say nothing from nothing begets nothing. Like if you don't put anything out, you have nothing. So at least put something out there like we're doing today. Clearly, I haven't had every word come off my tongue exactly how I wanted it to.
Me neither.
Right. But we're out here, we're doing our thing.
You're right.
And then, but that vulnerability is hard. So you have to step through that window or that door, and it's behind you now, and you jump. Like you have to pull the trigger. And as long as you're true, and as long as you support local and you network and you have everyone's best interest in mind, I don't really care what it is you're doing. I think you're going to shine and stay the course. Whatever it is you do, people become masterful at it. And there's a place for everybody to do. It is what their purpose is. I find in this world, if you're purposeful and you have good intent and you do your research and you're diligent, I think everything aligns.
That's awesome. That's real advice.
Thank
and
you.
It's really good
Well,
advice.
I care. I care, and especially local. Like I care. I really do.
Yeah, that's really great. And then for actual steps for how someone would sort of do this on their own, I noticed that you came in and you had a gimbal in your hand.
Correct.
Do you want to show everybody your gimbal?
Sure. Yeah. Hopefully,
So
it doesn't
if
run out of
anyone's not
juice.
familiar with a gimbal, can you give us an overview? Like, what is that?
Okay, you just segued into something that's hilarious because Diane and I are both chicken farmers, whether you know this or not. And the technology of how they came up with a gimbal is they studied chickens.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, because their head is kind of like stabilized contrast to the body. So why is this why the gimbal? I think this is a very lucrative tool because this stabilizes your jogging of your DIY vlogging type videos. And I actually came in and I took some B-roll because I'm very, very proud of this moment. And it's also got a built-in app, but it keeps consistency where you can just take that other little step. I mean, a lot of stuff's 4K. Like if you can work with 4K, 4K tends to be 4K. What you do post-production, like if you know how to compress things, how you share it, what you do with it, there's opportunities to fumble that stuff. But ideally, there are some DIY type tools out there. And I'm a pretty recognized certified drone pilot. So for me, it's very convenient to go from like being in the air and flying using my phone to jumping right onto a gimbal, grabbing some run and gun, as I call it. My DSLRs are kind of cumbersome and I usually have them on tripods, but there's also a place for this sort of vlogging, real type stuff. And I think it's quite engaging and it's useful. So there's my arsenal will be run and gun, and then more post-production kind of higher end stuff. So there's tools out there, but yeah, the gimbal for sure is a staple, and I think you have one.
We do, and it's something that I have absolutely no technical or photography, videography skills, but I've taken a few reasonably mediocre videos with a gimbal. I think anyone can learn how to use a gimbal. Anyone who's just starting out DIYing, not to the same caliber, but as you're saying, just put it out there, just get started. You can use a gimbal, and I feel like it's under $200 for a reasonable one.
And that's DJI, which is a great brand as well. Yeah, that's definitely a clutch thing you should have in your arsenal.
What else should you have in your arsenal?
Yeah, I was about to segue into that. I would.
What about editing? Like we sometimes use Canva here, but is there another editing program?
Canva.
I use Canva. Jalen, the professional, uses something much better.
I have such a mixed bag of emotion about Canva because Canva is excellent to visualize things for sure. But it also brings me work because sometimes you buy into what's called a vector graphic. It's not a vector graphic, but then so I have to redraw it. So I think I've gotten somewhere in terms of my production. But yeah, definitely there's apps out there, 100% post-production apps for editing. If we're going to speak only to videography, also photography, you can do a lot by way of cleaning up your photos. There's a whack of apps out there. If you can get into the Suite series, if you can afford Photoshop and Illustrator, these are also clutch things that you should have as a marketer.
They're expensive though.
A Premiere, yeah, but you can buy a bundle. I mean, if you're going to invest, you're going to invest, and then even just the computer you're using too. You know, it's good to have multiple screens. I even have like external drives. That's a cool little tool too, because if you can just buy a drive and store everything, you can free up your computer from like exhausting itself. And that I think is almost as clutch as my gimbal, because otherwise, like I've talked to other marketers and they're like, my computer's full. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like I can't, what do you mean? Like my computer is full. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, there's drives for like $100 with 2 terabytes. Drop everything on your drive if you can.
And I would say get 2 drives and back one up, because we've had some issues recently here with ceiling leakage from ice damming, and we lost a hard drive. Hard drives are great for storing your data. We also would recommend that you back it up. We had a ceiling leak here, and unfortunately we lost some data from a hard drive. So I would tell any small business starting out, if you've got quality photos, things that you want to keep, to take 2 hard drives for $200 for two separate hard drives, and have a copy of your good stuff. Back it up every 30 days or more often if you're working on a full project, so that you're not losing data.
And then post-production stuff like editing, you just can't lose it.
You're going to cry.
Oh yeah, it's beyond crying.
Yeah,
it's beyond crying.
Fair enough. Yeah, so that's awesome. Can you tell us, I know we're running a little bit low on time here, but I know you've worked with so many clients and so many success stories, but is there one sort of story you'd like to share with us, one of your clients that, has really grown?
Well, don't do that to me.
Or yourself. Tell us about
I just love them all. I love raising the bar.
Yep.
Clearly, well, I can't do
Fair
that.
enough. Why don't you tell us about your event that you have right now in Shelburne?
I could do that, sure.
Yeah.
That I could do. um, I was blessed enough to be asked to film the Support the Burn campaign from the BIA and the EDC of Shelburne. It was to promote local business in Shelburne, obviously, and it was a very eclectic mix of different vendors. Very exciting for me. And then when I was done that, they offered me the opportunity to present some of my mediums and artworks at the municipality upstairs in their town hall. So I have that kind of art show going on, art showcase. I've only done one before this with Larry Kurtz at So Live a long time ago here in Orangeville. So this is the first time I've kind of gone out on my own. And again, you're vulnerable, but you got to be out there. You got to be brave. You got to put yourself in you got to create something, and you have to create a buzz. And so so here I am speaking to it, and it's a mix of a lot of the signs I've made, photography, sculpture, graphic design, illustration, watercolor. I can't settle on a medium. I do love videography, as I spoke to this a lot, but I have been a sign maker for a good portion of my life, and that also is a very broad term.
Yeah.
The mediums could be plastic or foam or wood and I was blessed enough to make the town of Orangeville signs last year, a couple of HDU 16-foot signs to fabricate that and install those. If the original question was mostly about the art show, that is going on, and I do appreciate learning other mediums. And I want everyone to know too that you could be in something that could look like it's running its course, and I rehearsed this in my mind, how I wanted to leave people with this sort of message, at least get this out there. You could be in a lane and think it's exhausted, it's not working, but you have so many transferable hard set skills that you could just be a shade over from what is so close to what you're doing. So maybe don't sell yourself short. You could be still doing what it is you do, but don't give up on it per se. Just pivot a little and try to be subjective and open-minded to the idea that, oh, okay, well, this isn't systematically working right now, but there's something else right around the corner for me that's just a hair off. So so a photo illustration might be coupled, or video, or content creation, or writing, or SEO, SEM kind of monetization, and web building and graphic design. And there's an embodiment of stuff. If you want to do this stuff as a creative, you can, and there could be a professional element to it, and you might be there and you might not be there, but be open-minded that there are other disciplines that are so close to what you're doing that you might also be very good at.
That's awesome. You've given us so much great advice in the past 20 minutes or so. It's fantastic. I love how you're talking about just putting yourself out there and everything from what tools and equipment and different venues to try. You've given such great advice. Thank you so much for this chat today. Is there anything else you want to add? Anything else that we should let the small businesses of Dufferin County know?
I'm very, very big on buying local, supporting local, networking, caring about your community, caring about other local communities, obviously caring about Canada. And with that being said, I just think we as collectively as a product and as a people, we're pretty freaking awesome. And I think we should just stay the course and know that we're a good brand. We're a good people. And I think we just keep investing in each other and moving forward together. And it doesn't hurt to help your neighbor, and everything gets paid in full. I believe that what you put out there gets reciprocated tenfold. So thank you to Diana. And thank you to Dufferin Board of Trade for this.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. If you'd like to learn more about Tony's work, feel free to visit our website, dufferinbot.ca, and we'll have a link to this podcast as well as a link to Tony's website and contact information. Stay connected with the Dufferin Board of Trade for more resources, events, and future podcast episodes. Until next time, keep driving positive change, because good business is good for everyone.